Hi everyone, welcome to my Game of the Year Invisible Awards. I'm going to do this a little bit differently than normal. Normally I would hold the game and say blah 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 blah, but I don't really have anything to show you this time because 90% are actually, every single one of these games that I'm going to talk about, except for one, do I not have the actual disc for, cart, whatever it is. So, what does that mean? Well, that means you're just going to have my ugly mug and that's it. So if you guys don't really want to watch this because I'm just going to be rambling on and on and on, that's perfectly cool. But if you're interested in what my Game of the Year awards are, or what games deserve to be my Game of the Year, well, this is the video for you. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to talk a little bit about the consoles first, like each individual platform rather. I'm just going to list off one game. I'm not going to give runner-ups. I'm not going to give top 10, top 5s, none of that nonsense. I'm just going to tell you which game I believe was the best game of the year for that platform. As always, I haven't played every single game, but that doesn't matter. These are my personal selections for the game of the year. So we'll start with the Xbox 360. Believe it or not, this year on the Xbox 360, I barely played anything. I played a couple of games here and there, but there really wasn't much. So one game that sort of stood out above the rest, which is a multi-plat title, is Assassin's Creed 4. That is my game of the year for the Xbox 360. There were very few exclusive titles released on the 360, and of those that were there, they didn't really stand out as much as Assassin's Creed 4. Assassin's Creed 4, it's sort of like it brought the best of the Assassin's Creed series, coupled it with like Pirates of the Caribbean, and I loved that. I just love the open world nature of the game. I love being able to upgrade your ship, whatever, your giant boat. And just the freedom offered to like go around an island and then just veer off and, look at the horizon and say, you know what, I'm going to go over there. And more often than not, you could just pretty much go wherever you wanted to go. And I thought it was such a brilliant game. Looking ahead to 2014, the Xbox 360 is looking pretty slim pickings, much like the PlayStation 3. Don't know too much what's going to be released, but I'm pretty sure it's still going to be around. So next year, I'm probably going to have another Xbox 360 Game of the Year award. So congrats to Assassin's Creed for my Xbox 360 Game of the Year. PlayStation 3, this should come as no surprise. It is The Last of Us. The PlayStation 3 actually had quite a lot of exclusive titles this year. There were Beyond Two Souls, there was The Last of Us, we just had Gran Turismo 6 was released last week, the week before, or whenever at the time of this recording. But The Last of Us really just blew me away. That game marked our return to YouTube, and after a long hiatus. And it was a brilliant game. The story is just so powerful. I loved how you sort of like played through cutscenes and whatnot. It was just all around. It's just an all-around encompassing brilliant game. I cannot recommend it enough. It's actually like it would have been my overall game of the year had it not been for one other game that got released. And I just can't believe it that I'm even going to say that. But you'll see why in a few minutes. On the Vita, it's a game that I actually just started playing recently called Tearaway. Really, really very good game. So definitely my game of the year for the PlayStation Vita is Tearaway. And I didn't say congrats to The Last of Us for winning my Game of the Year award for PlayStation 3, but there you go. So yeah, back to Tearaway. Tearaway is the very first PlayStation Vita game that actually highlights every single feature of that platform, and it does it perfectly. It's a fun little, I don't even know what you would call it. It's like an action platformer type thing. I label so many different games that. I mean, I'll label Street Fighter that. No, I'm kidding. But anyways, it really it highlights so many different things. Like you can use your hands and go on the back trackpad, and you'll see your fingers will pop through the screen and move different things around. It's so creative. The touch screen never feels forced. None of the features feel forced or tacked on. They all just work brilliantly. And I haven't even finished the game. That's why I haven't even done a video review for it yet. And I can already tell you that it's going to be my game of the year just because it's been so much fun. Even if it's garbage from this point forward, it's still my game of the year for the PlayStation Vita because it's such an excellent game. And the Vita had a couple of games this year. There was a Killzone game that came out that was really good. But overall, the platform as a whole has been very quiet. I'm not sure what lies ahead in 2014, but I really hope that it can get a resurgence now that the PlayStation 4 is here because it's a really good platform and it'd be a shame to just see it fizzle away into nothing. The 3DS, on the other hand, has exploded. This year there were tons of AAA exclusive titles. We had the excellent Animal Crossing New Leaf, which was brilliant. I think I spent over 200 hours with that game. There was Luigi's Mansion, what was it, Dark Moon, I think, that came out. But all of these games pale into comparison to one game that was released, which is The Legend of Zelda: A Link Between Worlds. Just an absolutely spectacular game. It took everything that you loved about A Link to the Past and just expanded on it, like flipped it on its head. So if you were like me and nostalgic about it, and you had memories, and you were like, oh, well, I'm going to go this way for a secret, it would be something completely different. I love the way Nintendo did that. I also adored the fact that there was no more hand-holding. They didn't just like, oh, you got to do this, you got to do that, you got to none of that crap. It was just, you know what? Here's the world, you figure it out. And that's what Zelda's always been about. Ever since Navy was introduced in Ocarina of Time, we've always had these stupid hints, constantly, hints. The last true traditional Zelda was The Legend of Zelda: Link's Awakening on the original Game Boy, way back when. That's ridiculous if you think of it. I think it was like, what, 92? I find that outrageous. Ever since Ocarina of Time, we've always had the hand-holding, but finally, this is the first Zelda game in decades where you actually feel like you're exploring because you don't know exactly what you're supposed to do, and that is awesome. So, The Legend of Zelda: A Link Between Worlds, hands down my game of the year for the 3DS. On PC, I didn't play too many PC games. I played BioShock Infinite, Tomb Raider, and a couple of others throughout the earlier portions of the year. So I know you PC fans are going to be like, what? But for me, Tomb Raider. Tomb Raider is my game of the year on PC. Why? Because it was so much better than the console versions. The hair effects and stuff were amazing. I know it seems, what, who cares, whatever. But it was just breathtaking. It actually looked like a PlayStation 4 and an Xbox One game if you were playing it on PC with max settings, and that's the way I was playing it. I had my nice 360 controller, so I was all set, and it was just a brilliant game. If you haven't checked out that review, I highly recommend you go do that. Actually, funny, but every single game I've mentioned, with the exception of Tearaway, actually has a review here on the channel, so you can check them all out if you're interested. And all the rest that I'm going to talk about also do. The only one will be Tearaway, but depends when you watch this, so go check it out because Tearaway is in the pipeline. So, I'm looking at my little list here. Next, we've got PlayStation 4. This is weird. The PS4 has a couple of games that are good, but not great. Like Killzone's very good, but not sensational. Knack, very fun, actually a lot better than a lot of people realize, but just not like, wow. So for me, Resogun is my game of the year for the PlayStation 4. Why? Because it's simple arcade fun. That's it. Enough said. It scratches that itch that I have for arcade games, and I love it. I think it's a great game. For the Xbox One, Rise is my game of the year. I was debating on whether or not like Killer Instinct should be a runner-up, but I said I wasn't going to talk about those. And Killer Instinct does have a couple of issues that really prevent it from really like reaching the stratosphere. I'll talk about that in the video review for that game later. But for Rise, I don't understand. Everybody really like bashed the living hell out of the game. If you like God of War or linear action games like that, man, check out Rise. I don't get it. It's a breathtakingly beautiful looking game, but it's also a really fun action game. The combo system is really simple. You can make it a little bit deeper than you think at first if you start messing around with all the different perks and things like that. But yeah, it's only 4 or 5 hours long. But you know what? Who cares? If the whole experience from the story, graphics, gameplay, everything, it comes together seamlessly in 4 hours, then who cares? I never understood that. Why people like bash games for stuff like that. And even the online is really good. It's a co-op gladiator mode and it's fun. So that's my that's my game of the year for the Xbox One. But for overall game of the year, it would have been The Last of Us, okay? Because The Last of Us was one of the first games to ever actually, like, man, I didn't cry, but boy, there were scenes where I was like, wow, this is powerful. But A Link to the Past, a sequel to A Link to the Past. The Link to the Past is my favorite game of all time. So am I a little biased? Yeah, I'm a little biased. But really, A Link Between Worlds, or A Link to the Past 2, as many people call it, really, it's my overall game of the year for 2013, hands down. Why did it surpass The Last of Us, which is a new IP, and it should get more props? Well, the reason is because Zelda is such a storied franchise, and the fact is that this is the first Zelda game since 1992-93 where I actually felt like a kid again. When I went out and I started exploring, I couldn't put it down. I finished the entire game, and it was like, what, 20-hour game or something like that in just a handful of sittings because I just loved it. I loved every single minute of it, and it brought back all the nostalgia from A Link to the Past, but also pushed the series in bold new directions that it hasn't gone in years and years and years and years. And yes, The Last of Us was a sensational, fantastic game. One of probably the best action game released all generation long, and probably my favorite game of this entire generation. Well, not probably. It is my favorite game of this entire generation, excluding handhelds. But for this year, because A Link Between Worlds just blew my mind so much. I didn't expect it to be as good as it was. Yeah, it deserves it. It really does. It deserves the nod. So that's Jarrod's Game of the Year for 2013 is The Legend of Zelda: A Link Between Worlds. But now, I'd like you guys to do the same. Go ahead and list off the platforms that you own and what were the Game of the Years for you. Which ones did you guys really love and think, man, these were just sensational? I'd love to hear from you. So thanks for watching. Hope you enjoyed, and I'll see you in the new year.